Yakumo Shuko, age 28, is happily cooking in her kitchen. It's her favorite hobby, but behind her smile, she hides a secret. Just then, the doorbell rings. A visibly exhausted boy steps in. She greets him with a warm smile and flushed cheeks, gently tugging at his tired face. As he removes his coat, she kindly asks him to wipe the table, concerned whether long hours of practice are wearing him out. The boy, Yamato Shuhei, a calm and quiet first-year high school student, brushes it off. Smiling, she excitedly mentions she expected this from him, calling him a rising star. Embarrassed, he quickly stops her from saying more. Ever since that day, Yakumo has been happily cooking for him every night. As Yamato wipes the table, she casually asks about their first match today. He replies that although it was just a practice match, they still won, which makes her light up with excitement. To celebrate, she proudly serves him a jumbo-sized hamburger steak topped with sunny-side-up eggs. As a reward for his hard work, she offers him the egg with a bright smile. Seeing his shocked expression, she giggles, already knowing why. The food is delicious, but so rich and heavy that no one has ever managed to finish a full portion. Then she cheerfully mentions the side dish, a bowl of warm vegetable soup. At the sound of his growling stomach, she laughs and quickly apologizes before encouraging him to dig in. He thanks her sincerely and starts eating. She is taken aback when he eats half of the hamburger steak in a single bite. Her surprise grows as he quickly devours half of his rice bowl too. Watching him lean forward, lifting the bowl to his mouth and eating with such speed, she's both amazed and delighted. The sight has a charm, almost like a graceful nightingale in motion. Her shock deepens when, with his mouth still full, he looks up and asks, "Can he has another bowl of rice?" As she heads to the kitchen, her face lights up. She's genuinely happy. It almost feels unreal that he finished such a heavy, meat-filled dish and still wants more. As Yakumo opens the rice cooker, she's momentarily surprised to see how much extra rice she had made, almost by accident. But a smile creeps onto her face, realizing how lucky that turned out. He's eating so much tonight, and the last thing she wants is to not run out of rice when he's finally enjoying a full meal. She returns to the table and hands him a bowl filled to the top. But her eyes widen again in disbelief when he finishes the entire bowl almost instantly, just like before, not even pausing between bites. Watching him eat so quickly, Yakumo can't help but smile, thinking he looks a bit like her dog Pesu when he's hungry. But her smile slowly fades. It also reminds her of someone else, someone who's no longer here. Feeling a quiet heaviness in her chest, she stands up and walks back toward the kitchen. It's already late. As she moves, her thoughts drift back to the past. She used to love cooking, but after a certain incident, she stopped. The joy was gone. Then, one day, she noticed something odd. She had accidentally cooked too much rice. At that exact moment, she looked out the window and saw him for the first time, the landlord's son, a new transfer student here on a baseball scholarship. Acting on instinct, she made a quick dish using the leftover rice. Even though she felt a little disappointed that he'd never once greeted her before, she walked over, dish in hand, and knocked on his door. When he opened it, she gently introduced herself and said with a small smile, she had taken the leftover rice and quietly prepared a small dish, offering it to him with a gentle hope that he might accept it and return the plate later. To her surprise, he stood there silently, then suddenly ate the entire meal in one go, right at the door. Without hesitation, he handed the empty plate back and simply thanked her. That moment stayed with her. While she quietly observed his face, she was surprised to see how relaxed he looked now, the tiredness replaced by calmness. He had apologized for eating so quickly, explaining he was simply hungry, and had even praised her cooking with genuine warmth. Noticing the piles of convenience meals and fast food containers scattered around his room, she couldn't help but feel concerned. He was still a growing boy after all. With quiet sincerity, she suggested that he come over and eat at her place whenever he felt hungry. As Yakumo returns and sees him eating so peacefully, a quiet thought crosses her mind. Aside from the first day, he's never really praised her cooking. But her thoughts are interrupted when he suddenly asks for another bowl. She feels a deep, unspoken joy. Though she never tells anyone, it makes her genuinely happy when someone eats her food, especially this boy who now visits her just to eat. Still a bit shocked by his monstrous appetite, she quickly apologizes, explaining that there's no rice left this time. Then, a little hesitant, she offers him some mochi instead. He humbly thanks her for the meal, as always. Before he can leave, she gently suggests that he stay a bit longer, saying she'll bring out some peeled apples, a little treat she had picked up earlier from the vegetable stall across the station, sold at a surprisingly low price. When Yakumo returns, excitedly holding the peeled apples, she stops in surprise. He's already fast asleep on the floor. Quietly, she walks over and gently places a blanket over him. A warm thought crosses her mind. Though he never talks much about school or baseball practice, it must be exhausting. And somehow, the fact that he relaxed enough to fall asleep after eating her food makes her heart feel full. She's happy. Knowing her cooking brought him that comfort. Just then, her eyes catch a small grain of rice stuck in his hair, and she lets out a soft chuckle. Moving closer, she carefully picks it out, only to notice how quickly his hair has grown. Its texture, a little rough and soft, oddly reminds her of a Shiba Inu's coat, which stirs a bittersweet memory. As she gently pats his head, a quiet pride blossoms in her chest. It feels strange but sweet to think that her home-cooked meals might be helping Yamato grow strong, not just in body, but in spirit too. After a few minutes, Yamato suddenly wakes up, glancing at his phone and immediately looking worried. It's much later than he expected. Yakumo quickly apologizes for not waking him, explaining softly that he looked so peaceful while sleeping. Then she offers him some apples, only to freeze in surprise. The bowl is already empty. He had eaten the sliced apples in his sleepiness without even realizing it. As he prepares to leave, slipping on his shoes near the door, she hesitates for a moment. Then, suddenly nervous, she reaches out and gently tugs at the sleeve of his jacket. With her voice slightly trembling, she asks if he can come again tomorrow. He pauses, a little unsure, but gives her a small nod and thanks her, quietly promising to come by again the next day. The next day, Yakumo stands in the supermarket, quietly examining the different rice cooker models with focused curiosity. She's still thinking about what happened yesterday, when she had asked him in shock how he managed to eat 8 bowls of rice. He had casually explained that his supervisor instructed him to eat more as part of some strict team quota. When she asked if he always ate that much, he immediately offered to bring his own rice next time. But she calmly refused, already considering something else. The current rice cooker at home simply isn't enough for these growing portions. Now stepping into the large electronics store, Yakumo feels a wave of quiet excitement. It's been a long time since she last visited a place like this. She heads toward the rice cooker section, giving herself a small excuse. Her old cooker is worn out, so it's perfectly reasonable to buy a new one. But as she reaches the corner filled with rows of modern rice cookers, she becomes overwhelmed by the variety. So many shapes, sizes, and functions, she's unsure what to choose. Just then, a friendly salesperson approaches, asking if she needs help. When she explains what she's looking for, he introduces her to one of the most popular new models, equipped with impressive features and efficient functions. Yakumo examines the size and feels genuinely amazed. It's big enough to cook large quantities of rice, just what she needs now. But as her eyes drop to the price tag, she freezes in shock. It's far more expensive than she expected. Still, after a little polite bargaining and discussion, she manages to purchase the cooker at a slightly lower price, carrying it home with quiet pride and a warm sense of preparation for the next meal. Back at home, Yakumo eagerly flips through the instruction manual, feeling thrilled to have finally bought the new cooker. Though a bit anxious about her budget, she reassures herself it was a necessary purchase. As she begins cooking, she's surprised by how quickly the cooker works. When the notification beeps, she opens the lid and is instantly excited by the sight of sparkling, fluffy rice. Curious, she takes a bite and is mesmerized. It's the same rice, yet just changing the cooker makes it incredibly soft and sweet. The high price feels justified now. Thinking how Yamato-kun would love it too, she smiles right as the doorbell rings. There he is, with the same tired face, arriving just on time. With a soft blush on her cheeks, Yakumo opens the door and warmly welcomes him. Seeing her unusually glowing face, Yamato looks at her curiously and asks if something happened. She simply smiles, imagining how he'll react once he tastes the perfectly cooked rice. She plans to happily tell him then about the brand new, top-model rice cooker. The thought of turning his tired expression into a relaxed, happy one fills her with quiet joy. Yakumo cheerfully sets the table, excitedly telling him to eat as much as he wants. She's prepared plenty of side dishes just for him. He thanks her and begins eating, while she watches him with hopeful eyes. When he casually asks for some sauce, she quickly hands it over, then continues observing him, waiting eagerly. Noticing her gaze, he looks slightly confused and asks why she's watching him like that. Excited, she asks if something's different with the rice. Her heart skips, but he responds with his usual tired tone that it's delicious, like always. She's left shocked and speechless, expecting a bigger reaction, but watches him still eating with enthusiasm. Trying to brush off her thoughts, she casually asks if he's okay, noticing he's already on his sixth bowl. She's stunned when he calmly replies that he's just halfway full. He begins explaining in a flat, emotionless tone that his parents are both working, often overseas, so he's always eaten reheated, packaged rice. Even after entering middle school with intense practice schedules, he'd only see his sister and father at night, and meals were always pre-cooked leftovers. Yakumo grows emotional as he quietly adds that the first time he ate at her home, the food felt unbelievably delicious. That's why he's fine with any kind of meal, because hers already made an unforgettable impact. After finishing, he thanks her for the meal and heads out. She gently reminds him to do his best in tomorrow's practice. While washing the dishes, she feels a bit disappointed that he didn't even notice the new flavor of rice cooked in her brand new cooker. But then, recalling how he confessed that her freshly made rice tasted incredibly delicious the first time he had it, she blushes softly. Feeling happy again, she decides, with a faint smile and a warm heart, to forgive him this time. The next day at 5:45 a.m., Yamato wakes up with a tired face and a growling stomach. He quickly changes into his uniform and rushes toward the academy, so early that even the animals are still asleep. The warm weather only adds to his fatigue. Upon arriving, he greets everyone with a sleepy good morning. Other team members are also sluggish as they come down the stairs, yawning, but they all decide to quickly finish their breakfast before the coach arrives. In the mess hall, the boys quietly fill their bowls with rice and take their seats. One of them complains about having to eat so much food so early in the morning, while another calmly reminds him that if he doesn't eat, everyone will get punished. With no choice, he reluctantly starts eating. As they watch Yamato silently finishing his meal with ease, they're impressed by his huge appetite. One jokes that it must be because he travels from his apartment to the academy. Realizing this, the others ask in surprise why he isn't staying in the dormitory. Another curiously points out that, as a cross-referral student, it's actually required. Yamato quietly explains that he couldn't make the move in time, so at the last minute, he chose to attend this academy from his own place. Hearing this, they grow even more curious and ask how he manages meals, especially lunch and dinner. Yamato simply answers that he eats at a relative's house. Back at home, though she's sneezing, she cheerfully does the laundry since the weather is nice. While hanging the clothes, she happily thinks about making a large omurice for Yamato's dinner. But then, her eyes land on his Tuesday Academy shirt drying on the line. It instantly catches her attention. Realizing he must be doing his own laundry too, she starts to worry about him. She considers washing his clothes as well, but then hesitates, thinking he might not like it, and quietly dismisses the idea. Remembering the name of his academy, she heads toward it, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. As she approaches the grounds, she grows excited to see so many players practicing, though a bit anxious, unsure how she'll spot him among them. Suddenly, she freezes, shocked to hear a senior shouting at Yamato. The coach scolds him harshly for his swing, accusing him of putting in no effort. Though Yamato quietly apologizes, the coach yells again, telling him to quit if he lacks the motivation to play. The coach's stern tone and cold expression deeply worry her, and when he orders Yamato to run 20 laps as punishment, Yamato, though clearly exhausted, silently accepts and begins running without protest. After practice, as Yamato collects and puts away the balls, a friend approaches with concern, asking if he's all right. He sympathizes, noting how the coach seems especially strict with Yamato, assigning him even the simplest duty of ball collection. As the seniors instruct the first years to hurry up, they wrap up for the day and close the academy. Yamato, now feeling famished, heads toward home. Walking back, he is in quiet frustration. Since middle school, he's gotten used to being scolded, but today it hits differently. He truly questions whether he has the will to keep going. He still dreams of playing baseball, but never aimed to go pro, and now even that dream feels distant and exhausting. Just then, his stomach growls loudly. Gripping it, he shakes off his thoughts and hurries home. He can't think straight on an empty stomach. As he knocks at the door, she opens it with a bright, beaming smile. Sitting at the table, he looks confused by her oddly intense grin. She then excitedly places a surprise, an ultra-sized omurice decorated with a baseball design, before him and cheerfully encourages him to eat. He stares at it in shock, almost ready to ask if she knows about the scolding he faced earlier. But instead of saying anything, he brushes off the thought and quietly begins eating. The taste lifts his spirits, and as he enjoys the warm, delicious meal, he silently decides to work even harder in practice tomorrow. The next morning, she wakes up to a message from Yamato apologizing for not being able to visit today due to his upcoming spring tournament. Stretching and yawning, she sits up slowly, feeling a little down. After all, he had been coming over every day for the past month. Now alone, she lights a candle, waters the houseplants, then begins cleaning the floor while thinking about how he had mentioned yesterday that he'd never eaten pork kakuni. She had already simmered the meat overnight, planning to serve it to him tonight. Later, while doing the laundry, she chats with her friend Yuri on the phone. When Yuri asks how she's been, she casually mentions her recent grave visit and how she cleaned it. Then she asks about Yuri's work and her plans to stop by the store. Realizing how busy Yuri's schedule must be, and having already been near the store herself recently, she ends the call and decides to go alone. After hanging up the clothes, she relaxes in front of the TV and notices a delicious new recipe being shown. Just then, her stomach growls. She gets up and prepares instant yakisoba, topping it with spicy mayo. After eating, instead of putting away the dishes, she lies down flat on the floor. While lying down, she opens a book to read but quickly grows bored. She's already read it. Since there's no need to go shopping today, she slips on her shoes and decides to walk to the library to return it. At the library, she feels cheerful seeing children browsing for books. She selects a few for herself and, at the counter, ends up returning 3 and borrowing 5 for 2 weeks. On her way back, she wonders if she's borrowed too many. Her thoughts are interrupted when the butcher calls out to her excitedly, letting her know that the pork she asked about yesterday is on sale. She laughs and explains she doesn't need it today, prompting the butcher to jokingly ask if she's started shopping elsewhere. She just smiles and walks off, thinking to herself that since she's alone, she eats whatever's around. As night falls, she's shocked to learn how many strict rules baseball players must remember. Within minutes, the reading exhausts her, and she heads to the bathroom for a bath. There she notices the bath powders her friend Yuri had gifted her for her birthday, one she'd never used until now. Soaking in the bath, she reflects on how long a day feels when spent alone. She also grows uneasy thinking she's starting to eat the same kind of meals as Yamato-kun. Later that night, lying in bed while working through a puzzle book, she still doesn't feel sleepy even though it's late. Suddenly, she's startled by the sound of the veranda door creaking open, followed by footsteps. Mistaking it for a break-in, she grabs a frying pan in fear and steps out, only to be stunned at the sight of Yamato. Shocked, she asks why he's come so late. He explains he forgot some clothes and came to grab them before tomorrow's meeting, bringing along a few snacks too. When she asks if he still has club activities, he seems puzzled, especially when she calmly suggests he stay on the balcony and then walks back into the house. Then she quickly returns, her face slightly flushed, and asks him to stretch out his hand. Though they stand on separate verandas, she leans forward and gently places a bento in his palm, explaining with a soft smile that she had some leftover onigiri. He thanks her with quiet emotion while she wishes him good luck for practice. Watching him walk back to his apartment, she stretches with a yawn, feeling content. Then, remembering her glasses, she retrieves them and soon drifts off into a peaceful sleep. A few days later, at night, after practice ends, Yamato's friend compliments his improved balance. Bowing humbly, Yamato thanks him in return for his support. On his way back, with tired eyes and dirt-covered shoes, he wonders what the mess hall might serve for dinner. But just as he steps out, he's surprised to see Yakumo-san sitting cheerfully on a bench, waving at him. She hands him a bag full of food and asks if his friend isn't joining them to see the cherry blossoms. He calmly explains that most of the trees have already shed their petals, only one still remains in full bloom. Hearing this, she happily shares that she prepared a big meal and was walking along the Tuzei Academy Road, feeling lucky to run into him. As they walk together, she asks if, after a month at school, he's starting to settle in. He replies with quiet emotion that he's made more friends in the club. When she curiously asks about his lunches, he admits that he usually eats juden or boxed meals. She then tells him about a ramen shop that serves giant portions. He wonders aloud if it's the one known for heavy garlic, but says he'll try it. Yakumo also calmly recommends a few other good spots, so he won't have to rely on boxed food all the time. But she suddenly stops talking when he asks if he smells like sweat. She casually denies it, shifting the topic, and she praises him for even doing his own laundry. He shrugs it off, mentioning the washing machine does most of the work. Just then, both fall silent, struck by the breathtaking sight ahead, a massive cherry blossom tree glowing under the moonlight, its petals shining with soft brilliance. Without a word, she quickly spreads out the picnic sheet she bought from the store. The two of them sit on it, still mesmerized by the flowers. She quietly expresses how happy she is to see cherry blossoms again after so long. Remembering he must be hungry, she lays out a generous portion of food from her bag onto the sheet, offering it as part of a small flower viewing celebration. Before they begin eating, they silently put their hands together in prayer. She blushes and smiles warmly, watching him eat with both hands. Her surprise deepens when, for the first time, he compliments the delicious flavor of her homemade karage. Overjoyed and a little flushed, she decides to make that dish more often. As she reaches for the tofu sushi, she's startled to find the container already empty. He immediately apologizes for eating it all without realizing. With a soft smile, she tells him to help himself as much as he wants, adding that she had tasted plenty while cooking. While chewing the last bite, he wonders to himself if she truly tasted it at all. She smiles brightly again, gazing at the cherry blossoms. This place is well known for them. People come from far away just to see the trees in full bloom. Happily, she shares that she used to visit here every year to enjoy the blossoms. Listening quietly, Yamato emotionlessly mentions that although he's lived nearby, he's never actually visited the spot before. As petals begin floating down and landing on the food, she quickly brushes them away with her hand, a bit concerned. Then she's caught off guard when Yamato softly points out that she also has some petals stuck in her hair. She quickly shakes her head to get them off, but when they stay in place, she leans forward and asks him to help remove them. At first he's startled, then hesitantly reaches out, momentarily mesmerized by her long eyelashes before gently removing the petals from her hair. With a bashful look and sweet smile, she thanks him, and he also thanks her for the meal. As the air turns cooler, they both decide to head home. Carrying the now empty bag, Yamato feels a sense of relief. It's light without the food inside. While walking, she casually asks if he has practice tomorrow too, guessing it must be tiring. He explains that though he doesn't hate baseball, the sport has so many rules to memorize, and he's been playing it since childhood. She changes the subject, bringing up the upcoming spring tournament. With a hopeful smile, she asks if she could come watch, since the stadium has plenty of seats. As he walks down the stairs, he replies that it's a smaller event compared to the summer tournament and apologizes for not inviting her this time. But when he notices she isn't following, he glances back. She's standing still, cheeks slightly flushed. In a quiet voice, she says she doesn't have any other plans and that she was hoping to see the cherry blossoms with him. Her words leave him flustered and speechless. Mistaking his silence, she looks disappointed and assumes boys aren't interested in flowers. But she's surprised when he firmly replies that he actually really enjoys watching the blossoms too. Now walking side by side in silence, she glances at him again, blushing, and says softly that she's glad to hear that. A few days later in the morning, Yamato's childhood friend Rui, with a flushed face, shyly suggests that they start dating. But he gently declines, apologizing and saying his focus right now is only on baseball. Later in class, Rui lies disheartened with her head down on the desk. When her friend approaches and quietly asks if Yamato rejected her again, Rui suddenly sits up, glaring, and yells at her to stop talking. She vents her frustration, scolding Yamato for turning down someone like her, his beautiful, perfect childhood friend. Her friend tries to comfort her by reminding her that many upperclassmen like her too, and she should just forget about Yamato. But this only makes Rui angrier. She stands up abruptly, slamming her hands on the table, and passionately declares that she will never give up on him because she's the one who raised him from childhood. She continues, explaining with fiery determination how she watched over his remarkable moments, his perfect grip, his balance between legs and shoulders. She recalls that it was she who nurtured his love for baseball, pushed him to apply to the local high school, and even, with her father's help, convinced him to join this academy. Finally, with an excited gleam in her eyes, she reveals her one true purpose behind it all, that one day, when Yamato becomes a star and gains fame, she'll proudly stand beside him, as his girlfriend or wife, and tell the world that she raised him herself. Now Rui kneels on the ground, crying in frustration, her voice shaking with anger. Everything had been going so smoothly, until a relationship got in the way. A girl nearby cautiously asks if Yamato rejected her because of baseball. Rui's friend, sitting beside her, quietly explains that dating is actually prohibited in the baseball club. That only makes Rui more furious. She snaps at her friend, mocking her for supposedly dating that shorty boy from the baseball team. Offended, her friend quickly defends herself, clarifying that they're just neighbors. He only borrowed some money from her once, that's all. but then she suddenly remembers something and nervously tells Rui about a rumor that Yamato-kun has been visiting Ni-chan's house every night. Her friend tries to calm her down, suggesting not to overreact, but also admits there's another rumor going around that Yamato and Ni-chan might be in some sort of relationship. Instantly panicked, Rui grabs her friend by the collar, demanding to know everything about this woman. Her friend, gasping and struggling to breathe, pleads with Rui to let go. After school, Rui walks along the street, heading toward Yakumo-san's house, anxiously wondering if Yamato really visits her every night. The thought of that woman possibly living alone makes her even more panicked, and then disturbing ideas flash through her mind. Horrified, she shouts to herself, trying to erase the images, and suddenly sits down right on the road, yelling that she won't allow such a shameless relationship to happen. She'll show that woman her true power and drive her out of Yamato's life. Passers-by stare at her in confusion, wondering what on earth is going on. Arriving at the destination, Rui recalls how angrily Yamato had once told her not to come here. Remembering that his room is 201, she realizes that the neighboring room must be 202. But before she can gather her thoughts, she's stunned to see Yakumo-san step outside, wearing a face mask and with her hair tied up like an old lady, carrying a garbage bag. Rui immediately relaxes, laughing at herself for panicking over nothing. So, Yakumo-san is just an elderly neighbor after all. But as she observes her more closely, something about her expression feels odd. Rui starts to worry again, wondering if Yamato might be into mother-type women. Casually, she asks a question. Now seated in her apartment, Rui is offered a glass of cold water. While she apologizes for not being able to spend time with her, she's busy with spring cleaning, but promises to join her after finishing. Rui decides to wait until Yamato returns, since she needs to hand him a printout, but deep down she's also hoping to uncover Yakumo-san's real feelings toward Yamato, even if she's supposedly just an old lady. As Yakumo silently watches Rui, she can't help but admire the girl's idol-like beauty, secretly wondering if Rui might actually be Yamato's girlfriend. Meanwhile, Rui texts her friend, letting her know she's currently at Yakumo-san's place. In the kitchen, Yakumo is lost in thought, wondering if Rui visits often because Yamato lives alone. She quickly shakes her head, scolding herself for such silly ideas, but also acknowledging that today's youth moves very fast. On the other hand, Rui sits, annoyed. She admits that although Yakumo seems a bit unkempt and awkward, her body is incredible, something Rui herself lacks. That thought spirals into more frustration, pushing her close to an outburst. She can't help but suspect, is Yamato rejecting his childhood friend because his neighbor has the kind of figure he prefers in a woman? Without realizing it, Rui suddenly stands up and shouts that she won't let that happen. It would be completely unhealthy. Her sudden outburst startles Yakumo, who glances over from the kitchen, feeling a pang of guilt for having invited a schoolgirl into her home. But as Rui keeps shouting, her stomach growls loudly from hunger. Realizing she's hungry, Yakumo immediately offers her a slice of cake she has been practicing for some time, along with freshly brewed tea. With a cheerful smile, she explains that it's made from pumpkin and encourages Rui to try it. Rui makes a strange face, clearly unsure about eating such an odd cake. Still, deciding to get through it quickly so she can discuss the real reason she's here, she picks up the fork. The moment she takes a bite, Rui is stunned. The cake is surprisingly delicious, just like something from a store. Though she hesitates to admit how good it is, a thought pops into her mind. If she could have cake this tasty every night, she might actually come visit regularly. But she quickly denies the idea and decides firmly that she'll practice and become a better cook than Yakumo. But Rui's thoughts shift instantly when Yakumo removes her glasses and then takes off the mask, revealing a fresh, glowing face. She joyfully joins Rui at the table. As she looks at her charming, graceful figure, she's left in complete shock. Then, accidentally, Yakumo gets a bit of cream on her arm and casually licks it off with her tongue. Witnessing this, Rui yells out in disbelief, shouting a dramatic warning not to let her win. Fueled with sudden frustration, she storms out of the apartment in anger. Watching her dash away so fiercely, Yakumo blinks in confusion, unable to understand what just happened. As she continues eating, she quietly wonders about the complexities of today's youth. Later that night, while having dinner, Yakumo casually asks Yamato if he has a girlfriend. He looks confused but quickly denies it. The next day, Rui returns to Yakumo's place, this time bringing her own homemade cake. She confidently offers it to Yakumo, and insists that she try it. But Yakumo, smiling, suggests that Rui should taste it first herself. The next day, Yakumo stands at the cemetery, holding a bouquet of flowers. After whispering a short prayer, she steps away with a quiet promise to return soon. Now sitting at a cafe, she checks her phone and grows uneasy. Her friend Yuri is late again, likely caught up in her hectic schedule. A few minutes later, Yuri arrives, smiling warmly and apologizing for the delay. Seeing her after so long, Yakumo gently asks if she's doing okay at work. Yuri laughs, explaining she had to come up with several excuses just to make time for this visit. As Yuri eagerly sips her cold drink, Yakumo watches her with quiet concern, noticing she's wearing that same wrinkled shirt again. When the drinks arrive, they clink glasses cheerfully, and Yuri promises to visit the cemetery with her next time. Taking her first sip, Yuri lights up with excitement, happily saying she wishes she could spend all her breaks outside like this instead of being stuck in the dull office cafe. Now Yakumo stares at the changed food menu with confusion, noticing how different it looks. Yuri, sensing her hesitation, excitedly tells her to leave the choice to her this time. She cheerfully calls the waitress and orders a few unique and delicious dishes with enthusiasm. Seeing her so thrilled, Yakumo curiously asks if she's finally become a full-fledged member of society. Yuri proudly nods, explaining that her editor has high standards, but she's managing well in her current role. Then Yuri turns the question around, saying Yakumo also seems more energetic lately. She nods thoughtfully, admitting she's been trying to take better care of her health since turning 28. Though her current lifestyle still feels uncertain, she's doing her best. Yuri, now sipping her second glass of beer, casually encourages her to just do whatever makes her happy. As the two girls continue chatting about their health and life, the waiter brings another round of iced drinks. Yuri immediately starts sipping hers, but Yakumo gently advises her to be careful with her health too. While busy stirring her tea, Yuri suddenly notices how even the waiter and some nearby men keep glancing at Yakumo. Suspiciously, she asks if her friend is secretly in a relationship with someone. Yakumo, startled, quickly and loudly denies it. Trying to dodge her friend's rising energy, she awkwardly explains that she only assumes something because of Yakumo's recent glow. She then teasingly asks if Yakumo truly has no interest in being in a relationship. Yakumo, slightly annoyed, jokes that drinking too much beer must be messing with Yuri's brain. Their conversation pauses when the waiter arrives with beautifully presented dishes: kakuni, akata wall-eye palak roe, and stone-cooked rice. Both girls are instantly impressed by how delicious and artistic the food looks. After a short prayer, they begin eating. With the first bite, Yakumo is amazed by the taste and casually says she wants to try making this dish for Yamato-kun. Yuri, surprised, blurts out, does she think being good at cooking will get her a boyfriend? Before Yakumo can reply, both girls are distracted by a sudden loud voice. They turn to see a little girl crying loudly, refusing to eat. Through tears, she declares she wants to take the ice cream home. Her mother gently tries to explain that it will melt, but the child insists she wants to eat it tomorrow, completely unaware of the logic. The scene softens both girls, catching them off guard and breaking the tension with an unexpected laugh. Watching the little girl cling to her ice cream, Yuri recalls her own childhood, when her mother's handmade candies were her greatest treasure. But with 4 siblings, her older brother often stole them before she could enjoy any. One special visit to her mother's house remains vivid. She had packed leftover candies into a plastic bag, only to be scolded by her mother, who urged her to learn how to make them herself that year. When she returned home and opened the candy box, she found a handwritten recipe tucked inside. She tried making them on her own, but the result wasn't very good. Shifting the mood, she casually asks Yakumo about the dish she made recently. But before she can respond, Yuri receives a call from her editor. She quickly apologizes, stands while sipping the last of her cold drink, and assures they'll meet again soon. As she rushes off, Yakumo is left surprised by the sudden goodbye, but also touched when Yuri glances back with a blushing face, clearly relieved to see Yakumo living well. That night, back at home, Yakumo unpacks her grocery bags and changes clothes. Though still puzzled by Yuri's parting words about her seeming more vibrant lately, she finds herself quietly loving the azalea flowers she picked from the cemetery. The simple joy of dining out alone also lingers with her. Then, while unpacking, she's pleasantly surprised to find she managed to buy a large piece of pork belly at half price. Admitting to herself how adorable the cut is, she begins prepping the ingredients and pulls out her pressure cooker, something she hasn't used recently. As evening settles, Yakuma waits patiently, glancing at the time. When the doorbell finally rings, she eagerly opens it, her cheeks slightly flushed, and warmly welcomes him home. However, he hesitates at the entrance, pointing out the mud on his shoes and suggesting he should go back to his place. She quickly offers her bathroom for him to clean up. Soon after, she serves him the dish with quiet pride, promising it's something he's never tasted before. The sight of the pork kakumi surprises him, and she cheerfully explains how tender it is, recommending he try it as is or with a little mustard. He silently offers a quick prayer before taking a small bite. As she returns with some side sausages and a bashful smile, she's taken aback. He's eating in unusually tiny bites. He normally eats freely, without restraint, but now he moves the bowl aside and asks if he can leave the rest for later. A flicker of concern crosses her face, and she apologizes nervously, wondering if he didn't like the flavor or found the fatty meat unappealing. But he abruptly stands, almost childishly annoyed, and explains that he wants to save the rest for tomorrow. Hearing his innocent reason, she bursts into laughter, trying to hold it back. He watches, confused, until she wipes her tears and assures him she's not mocking him, she's just happy. She promises he can have it again, any time. Encouraged, he resumes eating with more ease while she still chuckles to herself. In that moment, he reminds her of a child in a cafe crying to take their ice cream home, just so they can enjoy it again the next day. The next day after school, Rui's friend excitedly tells her about a new pancake shop opening in the city, famous for its rich cream. She eagerly invites Rui to come along, but noticing Rui's uncertain expression, she pauses and asks if Rui has made new friends lately. Rui quickly denies it, explaining, almost too excitedly, that she has an urgent task to take care of on Thursday. With that, she hurries away, assuring they'll meet again soon. Left alone, her friend stands puzzled, wondering if Rui is hiding something strange. Come Thursday, Ritsuko is thrilled to find delicious donuts being sold for only 10 yen. But her joy turns to shock when she unexpectedly spots Rui in a suspiciously plain, almost unrecognizable outfit, complete with a cap and glasses. Her shock deepens when she sees Rui politely apologizing to a middle-aged man for being late. Now inside the train, Ritsuko watches Rui quietly sit next to the man, growing more and more anxious. Worried Rui might be involved in something sketchy, she decides to follow her immediately. For over 10 minutes, Ritsuko trails her, growing increasingly confused about where Rui is headed. Her confusion turns to disbelief when Rui enters the city's old recreational ground. There, a few baseball players look too tired to practice properly. With sudden energy, she loudly motivates them, shouting for them to pick up the pace unless they want to fail. The players are surprised to see her usual fiery spirit returning with such force today. Rui then removes her glasses, her tone sharper, pushing them to train harder. Watching this scene unfold for nearly 30 minutes, Ritsuko stands frozen, completely puzzled and slightly annoyed. The next day, Yakumo is in the kitchen, carefully preparing a variety of warm dishes. Although one nearly burns, she quickly corrects it. She's clearly waiting for Yamato to arrive. Once everything is ready, she begins placing all the dishes onto a small tray. Realizing the load is too much, she decides to buy a bigger tray next time. But just then, one plate slips. In trying to balance it, she accidentally drops the entire tray, sending all the dishes crashing to the floor. She gasps in frustration and disappointment. At that exact moment, the doorbell rings. Holding her pouch, she opens the door with a gloomy expression and greets Yamato. Seeing her dressed and seemingly ready, he asks if she's heading out. She quietly nods and explains what happened. Understanding that she dropped all the food by accident, he notices his own rumbling stomach, but says he can still eat. She quickly, almost panicked, refuses to let him do that. Despite his assurance that he'll eat the food that didn't touch the ground, she remains concerned it might upset his stomach. Feeling disheartened, she tells him there's only rice left, with no side dishes, and gently asks if he wants anything from the supermarket. Now she offers him the only thing left, canned tuna. At his request, she also brings soy sauce and some small dried fish from the kitchen. She's puzzled and surprised watching him, and even more shocked as he begins eating at an incredible pace. In just a few minutes, he finishes nearly 8 bowls of rice and asks for more. Carrying the empty bowl back to the kitchen, she stands stunned, wondering how he ate so fast with just soy sauce. She slumps to the ground in disbelief, thinking how all the carefully made delicious food was wasted, outshined by a single can of tuna. Noticing her, he asks if she's okay. She quickly composes herself and offers him the final bowl of rice. Seeing the cooker empty, she's startled to realize he ate all the rice with only canned tuna. As she sits beside him, she silently wonders whether he's just hungry or has strange eating habits. He explains that during middle school, his coach told him to eat more meat and tuna, and ever since, he's found it delicious, especially with soy sauce. She's even more shocked when he adds he also eats it with ponzu and mayonnaise. When he asks how she usually eats tuna, she replies with tuna salad or tuna mayo onigiri. He smiles and says he loves rice so much he can eat it even with just salt or soy sauce, or place it on top of roast meat. Listening to him, her mind nearly explodes. She realizes men can be impossible to understand. As night falls, he thanks her sincerely for the food. She smiles, amused that it was just canned food. As he's about to leave, he pauses, returns, and says he wants to eat the same dish again tomorrow. With a soft smile, she says goodbye. Back in the kitchen, she curiously stares at the canned tuna. Thinking it can't be that good, she takes a bite and instantly gets hooked. In the morning, Yakumo cooks a generous amount of curry and decides to save a portion for lunch. Just as she's planning to make baked doria curry later and feeling pleased at the thought of finally keeping him from eating everything, the doorbell rings. She excitedly opens the door but immediately grows worried. His eye is badly injured. With concern, she welcomes him inside and gently asks if he's okay, wondering if the coach did this. He calmly denies it, explaining that he got hit by a baseball. As he applies an ice pack to his eye, she's shocked and asks if he was playing defense. He nods, saying that in high school he switched to shortstop, though he used to play center back in middle school. She listens carefully. Thanks to a book she read about the sport, she understands most of the terms. Worried, she asks if shortstop is a dangerous position. He shows her a diagram, explaining that since the spot is close to the batter, the ball comes fast, but he enjoys it because it gives him more chances to run. Unfortunately, due to the first years not prepping the field properly, the ball bounced oddly and hit him. Now he checks his eye in the mirror, wondering if it's swollen. She smiles, comforted by how openly he talks about his game, and feels more relaxed knowing she can follow along with his baseball talk. Finally, she serves him a large portion of rich, tender Koma pork curry and gently suggests he eat, then rests so his eye can heal better. Still concerned, Yakumo asks if baseball is truly that rough. Curious, he pulls out a ball from his bag and shows it to her, explaining that he's always played with a hard ball. Since middle school teams use softer balls, most students are scared of the transition. She holds the ball in her hands, shocked to feel how solid and heavy it is, almost like a rock. When he calmly tells her he's used to it now, she again asks with worry how his eye can be okay after being hit by something so hard. He reassures her that it's completely fine. When she gently suggests he try a less dangerous sport, he tells her that games like soccer and rugby can be even riskier. Players sometimes lose teeth or suffer broken bones. She brings up joining the literature club or something safer, but he admits he's not very good at physical education, though he still respects it all. She smiles and says it's normal for active kids to get hurt while playing, but since she's never seen him injured before, she's extra worried now. While eating, he says the injury still stings a little, but just as he's about to say more, he sees her anxious and caring expression and quickly shifts the topic, saying injuries are just part of sports. Back at his cluttered apartment, he lies awake, worried that the injury might be serious, but also relieved he didn't share that concern with Yakumo. Trying to shift his focus, he lies down with a book, flipping between holding it above and resting it on his chest. Still, sleep doesn't come. His thoughts linger on Yakumo's always cheerful smile, even though she's lost a family member. He turns over again, now concerned about her quiet pain. Eventually, he sets the book aside and gives up on sleeping. Standing up, he decides to go for a run. Plugging in his Bluetooth, he steps outside, glancing toward Yakumo's apartment. In his heart, he quietly wishes never to see her sad. As he starts running, he thinks, one day he wants to be able to help her too. After taking a bath, Yakumo steps out of the bathroom. Though it's already past 10 p.m., she opens the fridge and takes a sip of a cold drink, unable to fall asleep. Enjoying the chill and sparkling taste, she decides to share it with Yamato too. But suddenly, she's startled by a rustling sound from her room. She quickly puts on her glasses and checks. Meanwhile, in Yamato's apartment, he's doing his exercises when he gets an unexpected call from Yakumo. Confused, he answers it, and as he opens the door, she shows up shouting for help, grabs his shirt, and pulls him along. In a panic, he tries to calm her down, but seeing her frightened expression, he hesitantly points out that she's still in her swimsuit. Flustered, she throws on his jacket and nervously explains that something just flew out of her room. When he cautiously asks if it's a ghost, she quickly denies it, saying it's black, fast, shiny, and flew directly at her. Realizing what she means, he tries asking if it's a cockroach, but she immediately stops him from even saying the name. Yamato calmly assures her he'll handle it, but she hesitantly mentions not having any pesticide. Dismissing the concern, he returns to his room, grabs a flyer, and after getting her permission, steps into her apartment. A few minutes later, he comes back and informs her he's killed it. Yakumo becomes overjoyed and surprised that he managed it with just a flyer. She steps close, gratefully thanking him. But Yamato quickly steps back, awkwardly pointing out her short clothing and asking if she might catch a cold. Realizing it, Yakumo hurriedly explains it's just because it's nighttime. She thanks him again and promises to meet tomorrow. But just then, both fall silent as Yamato's stomach suddenly growls loudly from hunger. Now wearing a coat over her nightdress, Yakumo prepares and serves him a warm bowl of egg gruel. Holding it, Yamato apologizes awkwardly for disturbing her so late. She, puzzled, asks how he's still hungry despite eating so much earlier. He explains that on regular days after dinner, going straight to bed. But on his days off, he tends to get hungry around midnight and ends up eating more ramen or canned food. Hearing this, she quietly thinks about making some midnight snacks for him from now on. After he finishes eating, she expresses her amazement at how quickly he managed to kill the cockroach. Calmly, he replies that he's used to it. Back home, his sister would always scream whenever she saw one, and he was the one who had to take care of it every time. Yakumo, visibly excited, asks if he really has a little sister. Yamato casually shows her a photo of a cute young girl. As Yakumo affectionately admires her and notes the resemblance between them, he immediately frowns and insists they don't look alike at all. When she asks more about her, he explains that his sister is 10 years old and in the 4th grade. Yakumo comments on how adorable she is, but Yamato, still annoyed, complains that she's actually super annoying, always yelling at him to put his socks in the laundry basket and wash the pot after eating rice, just like their mom. Listening to his frustrated grumbling, Yakumo bursts into laughter, realizing that even though he denies being fond of his sister, he still keeps her picture on his phone. Yakumo gently shifts the conversation, admitting she's a bit envious that Yamato has a sibling. As an only child, she always lost when playing at her friends' homes, having no one to practice with. Yamato tries to follow her point, but when she asks if he plays with his sister, he responds with slight irritation, saying she only sits behind him and nags about the game. A few minutes later, noticing how late it's gotten, Yakumo casually suggests he head home since he needs to wake up early. He apologizes for staying so long, but she cheerfully brushes it off, reminding him he saved her from the cockroach. She offers that he can come by for a late-night snack again if there's no club activity, and he agrees, gratefully thanking her for cooking twice. She encourages him to do well in his matches. Later, lying in bed and yawning from the long day, she suddenly remembers that Yamato has a little sister. Because of his quiet nature, she'd assumed he was an only child. As the thought lingers, a message pops up from Yamato, telling her to call him anytime if a cockroach shows up again. She sends back a thank you, places her phone beside her pillow, and smiles softly, thinking she might start relying on her new Oni-chan from now on. At the Tokyo Spring Baseball Tournament, Yakumo gathers her courage and, after showing her entry pass at the reception, steps into the massive stadium. Surrounded by a huge crowd and seeing the grand scale of the venue, like a national stadium, she's left amazed and impressed. She recalls 3 days earlier when Yamato told her about the tournament. When she excitedly asked if this was the match he had been practicing so hard for, he admitted it and invited her to come, though he emotionlessly added there wouldn't be anything special about it. She agreed on the condition that it wouldn't cause any trouble, thinking it might be fun since she's never seen a live baseball game before. Now standing in the crowd, she feels both excited and slightly relieved she wore a t-shirt under her outfit. It's hotter than expected. While trying to get a better view, she becomes flustered upon noticing the cheerleaders in very short skirts. Her thoughts are interrupted when a man behind her, struggling to see, politely asks her to move aside. Embarrassed, she quickly apologizes and hurries away. Meanwhile, Rui sits on the ground taking notes, looking annoyed at being out in the heat. Her friend complains about coming on such a hot day, but Rui promises to treat her to Mr. Donut afterward. Suddenly, she turns around, surprised to spot Yakumo nearby. She instantly asks Ritsuko, shocked, why she is wandering alone, guessing she might be unaware of the seating process. Yakumo, relieved to see familiar faces, runs excitedly toward Rui and Ritsuko. She'd been confused about where to sit. But Rui, clearly irritated, sharply asks if she's here because Yamato invited her. She nods brightly, explaining that it's been her wish since high school to watch a baseball match in person. Knowing Yakumo shares a passion for baseball, Rui's mood shifts instantly. She lights up with excitement and begins passionately explaining how watching a live match brings out a whole new energy, letting fans truly feel the player's dedication on the field. She continues, now cheering loudly, pointing out the skilled and professional lineup of Tosei Academy, especially the third-year Tadayama, with his 142 km/a pitch, strong physique, and sharp focus. She also highlights the promising new recruit Yamato Shohei, whose athletic build stands out. Yakumo, seeing Rui's enthusiasm, starts smiling, feeling just as thrilled. Meanwhile, on the field, Yamato hears Rui's loud voice and grows irritated, thinking she's starting again. But when he turns around and sees Rui and Yakumo sitting side by side in the stands, he's visibly surprised. He hadn't realized Rui would be there when inviting Yakumo. As the girls talk excitedly, Yakumo, impressed by Rui's deep knowledge of the game, curiously asks if she's a team manager. Rui, however, responds a bit sadly, explaining that due to strict regulations, she isn't allowed to take on the manager role. Now, as all the players line up in front of their supporters, they remove their caps and bow respectfully, silently expressing their gratitude for the audience's support. In the stands, both girls eagerly wish Yamato the best. Rui, especially, cheers loudly, calling out to him with full energy and encouraging him to give it his all. Noticing her enthusiasm, one of Yamato's teammates glances at him and smiles sadly, murmuring that he finally understands Yamato's feelings now. As all the players place their caps back on, Yamato feels a rush of happiness knowing Yakumo-san came to watch him play. Just the thought of her in the audience fills him with energy. He plays with heightened focus, skillfully handling the ball, and soon his performance electrifies the crowd. Cheers erupt as the tense match progresses, gripping everyone's attention. Eventually, the stadium bursts into celebration as Tosei Academy secures a stunning victory. After the match, Yakumo thanks Rui for bringing her along, while Rui remains thrilled by the team's win. On the way back, Yakumo feels a little disappointed for not being able to meet the players personally. But suddenly, she lights up upon spotting Yamato outside, sipping his energy drink. Seeing her approach, he bows slightly, quietly thanking her for coming. She smiles brightly, telling him how much she enjoyed the game and warmly congratulates him on the well-earned victory. Then hesitantly, she asks if he has lunch with the Parents Association today. When he nods quietly with a hint of disappointment, she gives a small, embarrassed laugh and says they must have prepared something nice for them too. Mentioning she needs to head home, she turns, but pauses, then quickly returns and serves him a generous portion of delicious food, along with a bento. As he shares that his stomach is still empty, she cheerfully offers him a special baseball-shaped onigiri, admiring both his skills and calm, cool appearance. He thanks her while eating, slightly flustered. Just then, his friends arrive and are stunned to see him there, especially since he was supposed to bring the drinks. When they notice Yakumo nearby, they ask in surprise if she's the kind Woni-chan neighbor who always cooks for him. He nods, and their shock turns to excitement when they spot the extra bento. Though they're just about to head off to practice, her offer makes them turn back. Eagerly, they sit down beside her and start eating, delighted by her tofu sushi and praising its taste with wide smiles. Yakumo watches them happily, blushing a little as they enjoy her cooking. As they continue eating, a few more of Yamato's teammates arrive and, curious, ask what's going on. When she warmly offers them some of the extra food, they gladly join in. Watching everyone gathered around, happily chatting and asking for second helpings of meat and dumplings, makes her cheeks flush with joy. The atmosphere feels more like a cheerful picnic than a team break, almost like a small party. But as time passes, Yamato reminds them it's getting late and tells everyone to return. They all nod in agreement. Then, unexpectedly, at his command to form ranks, all the teammates quickly line up. Removing their caps in unison, they bow deeply toward Yakumo and thank her sincerely for the food. She's completely taken aback by the sudden respectful gesture, her face turning even redder from surprise and modest happiness. Back at home, she lies on her bed, completely exhausted after spending the entire day outside. Though tired, she feels a bit surprised. Despite being surrounded by energetic high school students, she now senses a refreshing youthfulness within herself. As she turns to her side, a soft smile forms on her face, her cheeks slightly flushed, happy that she visited and watched the match. At that very moment, the doorbell rings. Outside, Yamato stands with concern, calling her name gently when there's no response, unaware that she has already fallen fast asleep.